hello. I posted my rereading the selection video, I think a little over a month ago. Since I posted it, you guys seem to really enjoy it. I did not know we all had so many opinions about the selection, but honestly, I shouldn't be surprised. Recently, it was announced that our beloved Selection series by Kira Cass is getting a Netflix adaptation. However, this is not the first time the Selection has been set to be adapted. And I thought, what better way to celebrate the Netflix adaptation of the Selection than to go back and relive our memories from the first attempted adaptation of the Selection. If you were not aware, in 2013, the CW wrote and shot a pilot episode for the Selection. I have been trying to watch this thing for years. I cannot find it anywhere. It was released on Hulu initially. It has since been taken off, I'm assuming for good reason. In the pilot, America was played by Yael Grobglass, who plays Petra on Jane the Virgin, and Maxon was played by Michael Malarkey, who you may remember as Enzo from the Vampire Diaries. I'm reading this off of my computer. Alright, let's get into it. Act 1. Over black. We hear the sounds of giggling and grunting. There's sex happening, folks. We're just not seeing it. ... Yet. And we're outside, zooming towards a majestic palace. The sexy sex sounds continue as we travel through a window into a decadent, masculine bedroom where Prince Maxon Shreve, 25, handsome and knows it, wickedly charming, fucks the breath out of Lucy. Lucy hangs onto Maxon's unmade four-poster bed as he does her from behind. Also, I would like to point out that I was thinking of reenacting this and trying to recreate the pilot just by the script, and then I read this first scene, and I was not gonna do that. Lucy, panting and loving it. Your Highness, I'm supposed to be changing the sheets. Maxon says messing them up is way more fun. Maxon spanks Lucy, hard enough to sting, but not so hard that she doesn't like it. She giggles. As Maxon spanks her again, the bedroom door opens. Reveal Queen Amberly. As she takes in the scene, she strides over to Maxon, grabs him by the ear as she pulls him off Lucy. Maxon, the maids aren't here for your pleasure. Lucy squeals and dives under the covers. Maxon grabs a sheet to cover himself, gives Amberly a grin. Don't worry, mother. I always give more than I receive. As Queen Amberly exits, Maxon grabs a shirt, heads towards his bathroom. Lucy pops her head out of the covers and pouts. But we aren't finished. Duty calls, and Lucy, those sheets aren't going to change themselves.
They ask you how you are, you just have to say that you're fine when you're not really fine.
Wow, I really hate this more than I've hated many things in my life. This is not Maxon. Maxon is not Damon Salvatore. I understand what the CW was trying to do. 2013 was all about the bad boys. They tried to make Maxon a bad boy, but he's not. He's like a really nerdy, sweet guy, actually. In the Selection books, Maxon's never even kissed anyone. And here, we open to him pounding his maid mercilessly and slapping her repeatedly. I'm really glad this was not made into a whole series. God, I hope the Netflix adaptation's better. So in this next scene, we are in the throne room, and we have Queen Amberly, King Clarkson, whose description says 50s, once hale and hearty, now fragile, which is not how he is in the books. And then, apparently Maxon has a brother named Prince Rock. He's 23, and he's a more reserved version of Maxon in military dress. So basically, Roth is Maxon from the books, and Maxon in this version is Damon Salvatore. This scene's kind of boring. They're all just talking about how it's a good time to have a selection because there's rebels. Roth says to Maxon, I bet Sylvan, I don't know who that is, but Sylvan, a week's pay you wouldn't show. Bad bet, little brother. This is Christmas morning, only better. All the gifts have breasts. Sorry, I just threw up in my mouth a little bit. Queen Amberly says, a little respect. One of these 25 girls will be your wife. Maxon grins. They won't be girls when I'm done with them. And that's the end of that scene. Now we're moving into a scene where I'm assuming this is the Ilya report. We've changed Gavril, or the Caesar Flickerman of this world. His name is now Sylvan Santos. And now we get some context as to how this world was created. So I will read you Sylvan's lines that he speaks to the audience. Centuries ago, our globe was divided into hundreds of countries populated by billions of people. These people were greedy, obsessed with progress and technology, until technology led to their destruction.
13 districts rebelled against the country that fed them, loved them, protected them, Brother turned on brother until nothing remained.
The global war began. Disease and famine spread. Billions died. Civilizations collapsed. Survivors migrated to the one and only land that could still sustain life. A new nation was born, Ilia. Under the monarchy of the Shreve family, all technology, except that deemed absolutely necessary by the king, was banished. Order was restored. So is this the Hunger Games? I'm confused. See, they don't really talk about this kind of stuff in the books that much. It's assumed that most people don't have technology if you're poor, but they don't ban it. They have a curfew. I do remember that from the books. And now they're describing the caste system, which instead of having numbers, it is divided into the royal class, the nobles, the learned class, military class, merchant class, and labor class, which, if I'm being honest, is a lot more realistic, but also a lot less fun. I liked the numbers. I thought it was kind of unique. In order to keep the monarchy in the hands and hearts of the people, it was declared by our first king, Matthias Shreve, that the queen shall be chosen from among our people, and thus our most treasured tradition began, the selection.
And so it was decreed that each year the various districts of Panem would offer up in tribute one young man and woman to fight to the death in a pageant of honor, courage, and sacrifice.
And now they're basically stating once again how the selection works. So the royal family goes backstage and Raphael is trying to convince his dad that this is not a good idea and that it's dumb to have a selection. Everything is stupid, whatever. Maxon pulls him aside and has a quick chat with him because he is annoyed that Raphael is, and I quote, determined to keep a horde of hotties out of the palace. It cuts to America's neighborhood. A young man, 25, muscular, cut, hot as hell, suspended between two tall wooden posts, each of his wrists tied to a post, his toes barely touching the ground. This is Aspen Ledger. Really? Nearby, an enforcement officer stands to watch. Find America Singer, 23, fresh-faced beauty, striding toward the enforcement officer, her eyes fiery. America says, cut him down. Why would I do that? You've had him strung up there since yesterday. Basically, they just go back and forth. America continues to yell at the enforcement officer, and he doesn't really do anything, so America comes up with the steamiest burn of all burns. That badge, it makes you feel powerful, doesn't it? But you're still a labor classer, just like the rest of us. Oh, damn. Get him, girl. Get him! The enforcement officer tries to arrest her and she runs away. She races through the streets and alleys of her neighborhood. She knows these streets like the back of her hand, and we see her athleticism as she darts around corners, barrels over obstacles, and scales makeshift fences. The enforcement officer doesn't stand a chance. He loses her as America, with a satisfied sparkle in her eyes, dashes through a sea of clotheslines. The enforcement officer gives up, panting, holding his knees. America keeps running, and she runs all the way back to Aspen. And now we have a scene where she's untying the ropes, and Aspen says, you're sexy when you're being an action hero. What's an action hero? And Aspen says, something from the old days. People in funny clothes, acting all righteous. I feel like these characters are being written to be really, relatable. Then I guess I better brush up on my action hero skills. A pause. Are you okay? Really? Okay enough to do this. With a deft move, he pins her to the wall, kisses her. Their passion is raw, intense. And then they just kiss for a long time and talk about nothing. Now we're in America's house, and their whole family is sitting down to watch the election. We have aged May up from about, what is she in the book? 7 years old? Now she's 18, so she's my age. And they're all sitting and watching it on the TV, and America starts complaining about how dumb it is, and everyone tells her to shut the frick up because she's ruining it for everyone. Honestly, what's new? And America says, I'm sorry, but the selection makes girls like May believe Ilia is some land of opportunity, when really, aside from this one time, the class system keeps us all on our neat little boxes, and it always will, because she's a woke queen and she knows what's going on. And May says, can you please shut up? Honestly, I felt that. And now they're explaining again how the selection works. And as the names are being drawn, we're just cutting to all the different contestants' houses as they find out that they're now in the selection. What I did find interesting was when they're in Celeste's house, she's like fencing and doing some weird rich people stuff. But Celeste's father actually says that on Celeste's mom's side, that family actually ruled the country before it became Ilia. I actually enjoy that because it gives Celeste more of a motive. I feel like this this could make her an actual antagonist of the series, and I could even see her becoming a part of the rebels later. So we come back to America's house because it's time for her to be selected. So they all think at this point May is going to be chosen, and then they call America Singer. America can't believe her ears. Aspen's jaw drops. May gasps. May asks America if she entered the lottery, and America says she didn't, so she doesn't know what the frick is going on. Oh, it's he. Okay, so apparently what happened was Kala, who I guess is her mom, entered America's name. She says, when was the last time our family had enough to eat? I have 2 daughters. I wanted 2 chances to change our future. The guards come to get America, and America says she's not gonna go, and then they all get into a fight with Aspen, and then they take her, and that is the end of Act 1. Okay, my thoughts so far. My first thought is I don't understand why this has to be so sexual. I get that it's the CW and sexy teen time is like kind of their thing, but at the same time, it's literally the first episode. I don't understand why we've turned Maxon into Theon Greyjoy from Game of Thrones, but I really don't appreciate it. I also don't understand why we had to give Maxon a younger sibling. The first scene with America and Aspen is frankly very dumb. So now we are entering Act 2, and we are in the Palace War Room where the King, the Queen, and Raph are sitting around waiting for Maxon to show up. They're consulting with someone named Captain Shane, who is asking whether they should wait for Maxon, and King Clarkson is pissed. My eldest son doesn't bother with matters of national security. He's busy with more important things like skirt chasing and whiskey. Captain Shane gives some more context on the whole rebel situation. They talk about the rebel commander being named Gaia Woods, and they put up a little pretty picture of her. Yay! Photo moment. And then to provide more context on this woman, Raph says she pulled off that raid last year on the grain depot, killed 12 guardsmen, managed to deplete most of our winter stores. She is fearless. Last report I got on the field had her over the mountains. At this point, it looks like Gaia Woods and her rebel forces are far away. Now we have a real quick cut to Gaia, who is looking through a telescope at the palace. She is strong, focused, and beautiful, with her force of 20 leather-clad, weather-beaten rebels, including Lieutenant Paz and Wallach. We realize she and her rebel squad are not far away at all. As Gaia watches, a line of sleek horse-drawn carriages enter the front gates of the palace. Her eyes narrow, and she says, "Lambs to the slaughter." Talking about the selection girls, I'm assuming, which is like kind of actually a good line, and I actually kind of liked that. And now we get a view of all the girls entering in their little cars, which I can only compare to when they enter in the little cars from like The Bachelor or on Love Island. I know this is not how it's happening because this is a serious show, but in my mind, they're all standing up through the sunroofs in their Jeeps in their little leopard bikinis. We see the carriage windows, each occupied by a beaming selection candidate, every girl more thrilled than the last, until we land on America's carriage. America's face, framed by her well-worn cloak, is a stark contrast to the other girls. And then we're watching from inside the palace where Maxon stands at a high window. His eyes are amused, predatory. Bitch, what? They literally just called Maxon a predator. Who is this? What the frick? It doesn't work. It just doesn't work. Maxon's gaze moves from girl to girl until he settles on America. While her manner of dress sets her apart, it's her demeanor that makes her stand out. Oh, so America's not like other girls. She's different. She's quirky. She's special because she doesn't want to be there. As Maxon watches America, intrigued, Raphael walks up behind him. He says, trying to decide which one you're going to defile first. Maxon says, don't be absurd. As if she knows she's being watched, America looks up and meets Maxon's eye. Their look holds for a minute. Then America looks away. Maxon grins. He says, I've already decided. That is fucking disgusting. Ew, literally... Just why? America gets taken to a room where Fiona, Ashley, and Celeste are getting pedicures because apparently at this point those are the only 3 candidates, even though there's supposed to be, 25? Celeste is talking to Fiona and says that Fiona's probably gonna win because her dad owns the iron mines and they need the steel to make weapons to fight the rebels. And Ashley goes, I don't understand. Weren't we all picked randomly? Celeste gives Fiona a look. Plebeians. Oh, that is my favorite insult. I legitimately love when people call someone a plebe. I think it's so funny. You're such a freaking plebe, Ashley. God, don't you know anything about the way the inner workings of the upper class are, even though you're a middle classer? Fiona and Celeste start to explain that they pick each of the girls for political and strategic regions, and the lower class girls basically don't stand a chance. They call America the token worker bee because she's the only one from the worker class, which, yikes. Celeste says, isn't that what you labor classers do? Work, work, work like busy little bees. Celeste calls Ashley a filler candidate, which is honestly kind of savage. But we've been new. That's her personality. They start talking about how Queen Amberly was from the merchant class, but she still got picked, so maybe Ashley has a chance. And Celeste says, we're talking about Prince Maxon. It's not his heart you should be worried about. Just hammering home the point that he is a big fat snake and a predator. Love it. How freaking long is this script? I'm getting tired. Like, goddamn. All the girls, once they're done being pampered, talk to Sylvan, and he once again explains how the selection works, because we haven't gotten it already. From the 4th time this has been explained so far in the pilot episode. Sylvan dismisses all the girls except for America, which, why? But okay. They enter a room full of flowers, and Sylvan basically tells her that all of her supporters from the labor class have been sending her flowers because she's the candidate that the populace will rally around, and apparently she has all these supporters already, even though she's done literally nothing, and that she should be grateful that she's there because everyone loves her. And America, being the relatable, not like other girls, quirky queen she is, says, but I don't want to be some symbol. I just want my life. And Sylvan says that he has heard about her, young man. America's like, no. And that's the end of that scene. Now we are in America's room at night. America, disturbed after her conversation with Sylvan, enters to find Maxon casually lounging on her bed.
Excuse me? I think that you're in the wrong room.
I'm in the right room.
Maxon says, I'd introduce myself, but why state the obvious? America says, Prince Maxon, what are you doing here? Maxon grins. America takes a deep breath and says, I want you to leave. Maxon raises a skeptical eyebrow. He gets off the bed and approaches America. Really? He says. Definitely, she replies. He's got her backed against the wall now. To start with, women don't usually talk to me like that. Men either, for that matter. And from a labor classer, no less. I'm impressed. He leans in. What am I going to do about— Ow! America's foot has just connected with Maxon's shin. Maxon says, what the hell? America realizes what she's done. I'm sorry. I know you're the prince, but will you just go? And Maxon says, you're serious. Fascinating. Maxon assesses her, truly assesses her for the first time. I haven't had this much fun with a girl who wasn't naked in, well, ever. Imagine how much fun we'll have when I finally get you into bed. Did someone say predator? America says, that's not going to happen. Maxon tugs the stray hair behind America's ear. He says, your certainty is adorable. And she says, and you, Prince Maxon, have no shame. He says, none at all. Sleep tight. Maxon heads for the door. America is fuming as he exits. I hated that scene a lot, like actually so much. Do you like how they were having some banter at the end, because this is a real sexy hate to love relationship when the man is legitimately described as a predator. Now we're in the rebel camp, and two of the characters, Paige and Gaia, who's the leader, are talking about how they can infiltrate the selection and naming various girls that they could get on their side. And then, of course, because America's not like other girls, Gaia, the leader of the rebels, suggests America Singer is the one they have to ally with. Gaia says, her name, America, it's the most revered of the old countries. It represents everything we're fighting for. A land where everyone has a voice, where every citizen can choose their own destiny, not be defined by class. A land with no monarchy. Oh, and they're gonna kidnap her apparently. And that's the end of Act 2. Finally, we're on Act 3, in America's room at night. The figure of a man steps from the shadows, creeping towards America. Suddenly, there's a hand over her mouth. America jolts awake and tries to scream. The man says, Aspen sent me. America blinks as a figure leans into the beam of a moonlight. We see Peter, the gentle-eyed palace servant. So Peter takes America into the servants' quarters, and America is asking if they'll get caught, and Peter's like, I could lose my job, probably spend the rest of my life in the dungeon, but Aspen's my oldest friend, and I'm a sucker for a star-crossed love. America and Aspen see each other, they kiss. Aspen tells her that he got drafted, and he's reporting the day after tomorrow. And America's like, oh my god, there's not a draft happening right now. And Aspen's like, well, duh. And America, being the smart ass she is, she's like, oh my god, because you fought the guards. And he's like, no shit. Aspen tells America they're gonna leave, but of course they can't leave until after the big winter festival because we have to have the drama. And now we cut to Prince Maxon's quarters. Pan up a pool cue to find Ashley wearing only her bra and a pair of tight pants. She giggles. As the shot goes wide, we go wide too, and find that Maxon is hosting a strip pool party with a small group of selection candidates. And he basically forces Ashley to take her pants off. And as soon as she takes her pants off, he moves to the next girl and asks to have a belly button shot from her. Now we're in Celeste's room, and Celeste is asking her maid Ondine if she got the king's personal guard's schedule. And the maid hands the schedule to Celeste. Celeste says, good. Ondine said, I had to blow half a dozen soldiers for that. All you can say is good. Celeste gives her a look. What would you like me to say? Have a mint? Celeste continues, or perhaps you think you deserve a little something for your trouble. A little something pretty. She rises, holds out a bracelet, but as Ondine approaches, Celeste hits a secret latch on the bracelet and a small dagger shoots out. As Celeste holds the dagger to Ondine's neck, she says, ah yes, this should do quite nicely. To kill the king. Okay. I really thought we were gonna be done, but apparently we're in Act 4 now. This is day 2. Now we're on day 2 of this whole shebang. An elaborate winter festival in the palace courtyard. Prominently on display is the engagement ring that Prince Maxon will eventually present the last girl standing. The selection candidates subtly circle the ring like a ball gown-clad shark. Overflowing trays of food cover enormous banquet tables. Ornate sculptures decorate the perimeter. I literally don't care. Apparently there's an ice carving of a salmon, because why not? Find Prince Maxon looking his most regal and on his best behavior, standing in front of the assembled guests. As the king, queen, Raph, and Sylvan look on, Maxon clinks his champagne glass. Maxon says, ladies and gentlemen, selection candidates, welcome. I have looked forward to this moment for most of my life since I was a small boy hearing the romantic story of how my father selected his queen, my mother. It has most recently been pointed out to me that I have no shame. A ripple of jealousy passes through the girls as Maxon locks eyes with America. And that is true. When it comes to the future of my country, there is nothing I will not do. And then he just talks some more, and then he says, let's get this party started. Maxon smashes the champagne glass to the ground. The band strikes up a song, and Maxon pulls the closest selection candidate, who happens to be Celeste, into a dance. Maxon asks why wasn't Celeste at his little sex party last night, and Celeste says that everyone there was too desperate and he should send them home. And then Maxon is like, ooh, maybe I'll marry you. And Celeste says, I want to marry you. Who you love? Well, that's your business. We find America staring at the big fat ring in the box, which I would hope is not as ugly as the ring from the books, but again, just my opinion. Fiona walks up to her and asks if she wants the ring, and she wants to marry Maxon, and America's like, hell to the no, and Fiona says, oh, me neither, T, and she looks at Raph, and they have like a little look, because apparently they knew each other before this, and they're in love, and then America's like, oh girl, you can talk to me if you need to, and Fiona's like, no. And then she walks away. And now we cut to the king and queen. The king says, how many bastards do you suppose he'll spawn before this selection is through? And Queen Amberly says, Clarkson, don't be. And then she realizes that her son is a sexual predator and says, 1 or 2. Bitch, what? That is icky. Now we're in a hallway. Fiona and Raph are kissing. I'm freaking bored. And Raph says that the king and queen are probably gonna try to get Maxon to marry Fiona. And Fiona's like, if he asks me, I'm gonna have to accept, otherwise my parents would kill me. And then Raph's like, that sucks. And then Fiona's like, we can still be friends. And he's like, wow, bitch, really just freaking friend zoned me. I thought we were gonna kiss. Okay. And now we're in the courtyard. America is eating an apple. I'm assuming waiting for Aspen. Maxon grabs America and spins her onto the dance floor. She starts complaining. Maxon says, so, are you in love with me yet? America says no. Maxon laughs. America says, why do you think that's funny? And Maxon says, every other girl here is falling falling all over herself to tell me how wonderful I am, but you act like I'm keeping you from something important. And while this is happening, America is looking over his shoulder trying to find Peter so she can go see Aspen and they can run off together. America spots Peter, ditches Maxon, walks away. They're outside now, and suddenly America hears a scream, shots ring out, guests scatter as the giant sculpture splits open. Rebels led by Gaia Woods pour out, and we realize the rebels used the ship as what the frick? So apparently there's some sort of ship sculpture that's just at this party. Okay, I did not notice this from the beginning, but maybe I'm just freaking stupid. The rebels led by Gaia Woods pour out of the ship sculpture, and we realize the rebels use the ship as a Trojan horse. They've been at the party all along. Chaos erupts. A contingent of royal guards ushers the king and queen to safety. Another contingent rushes for Maxon, surrounds him, and shoves him out of harm's way. Raph, the soldier that he is, pulls out a gun and shoots the rebels. The rebels try to kidnap America. Peter tries to block her and protect her, and then they shoot Peter. America screams. Paz grabs her, but America fights back. He loses his grip, and she scrambles away as the royal guard finally regroups and starts taking back the courtyard. Gaia sees Paz lose his grip on America. She also sees Ashley cowering alone and unprotected. Gaia tells Paz to forget America and grab Ashley, so they do. As the rebels run off, America goes towards Peter, who is bleeding, and tries to stop his bleeding, and that is the end of Act 4. I am so done with this. We still have 20 pages left. Act 5. America tries to staunch the blood from Peter's wounds with her hands. Peter dies. Now we're in the war room, where the royal family and Captain Shane are. Raph says that they should probably halt the selection because 6 guards are dead and Ashley is missing, and King Clarkson's like, nope. And King Clarkson sends Raph to get Gaia Woods, the leader of the rebels. A soldier comes in and tells the royal family that they think one of the girls is trying to kill King Clarkson because they find Celeste's bracelet and the schedule that she had. So the guards go, and instead of getting Celeste, they seize Fiona. Apparently we find out that Celeste planted this evidence in Fiona's room to get her eliminated because Fiona was her biggest contender. Raph does not believe that Fiona tried to kill the royal family, but she's still dragged away. And instead of being subtle and just showing us a shot of Celeste being snarky and us realizing that she did this, we actually get to talk about it. Where Celeste's maid says, "There goes your biggest rival. Well done." And Celeste says, "I knew having you plant the dagger in her room would pay off at some point, but so soon, Daddy will be so proud."
Daddy?
Because we can't just infer and create suspense, we have to actually comment on every single thing that happens. America goes out on her balcony, sees Aspen down there. He's waiting for her, so America goes to put on the maid's uniform. America is pretty much out of the castle, but she realizes she doesn't have an ID, like a castle worker's ID, to get out. So instead of just going back or trying to find a sneaky way to get out, no. She does the Tris Divergent jumping off the train thing, where she just sprints and magically jumps right into a moving cart that starts to drive away. America jumps off this moving cart once they're in the middle of the street, and she says, "I'm finally free!" And then she goes to find Aspen. She starts sprinting towards the hill. Then we hear galloping. Suddenly, America is scooped off the ground and dropped onto a horse. Shocked, she twists around to see who grabbed her. It's Prince Maxon. "Going somewhere?" he asks. We look at America. She's totally fucked. End of Act 5. Yes! Oh my god. We are at the last act, finally. I legitimately cannot do this anymore. We're back with Maxon in America as he jumps off his horse and pulls her down beside him. Maxon pushes her down, grabs a pillowcase full of shit that she stole from the palace and dumps it out, and is really confused when it's all apples. Maxon is genuinely confused. Apples? You stole apples? America says they're worth a lot to people who can't get them. And Maxon says, what people would be like that? People like ... Aspen? I made some inquiries, found out all about your heart heart-wrenching goodbye. America stares him down but doesn't respond. And Maxon says, by morning, the entire palace will know you're gone and the royal guards will hunt you down. And when they find you, they'll beat your boyfriend to a bloody pulp for absconding with a selection candidate, and they'll put you both in jail for subversion. America decides to go back because she doesn't want to risk Aspen's safety, and she proposes a deal to Maxon. She asks him if he needs help with the rebels, and he's like, why would I need help with the rebels? And she says, I know about the people.
There's people that are dying.
Think about it. There are more labor classers than the other 5 castes put together. They're going to support the monarchy or they're going to support the rebels, and whoever wins their support, that's who will rule Ilia. Take me back and I'll be the perfect selection candidate. I'll tell anyone who will listen how wonderful the monarchy is. I'll make it seem like you care about us. I will give you the labor class. I only want one thing. Aspen. He was drafted because of me. Promise me he won't have to go into the army. Maxon considers and then says, we have a deal. Then we cut to the woods outside the rebel camp where Raph and Captain Shane, each foot soldier, sneaks up on a rebel lookout, then stabs the lookout from behind through the heart with a sword. They find Pays, who is Gaia's right-hand man, I guess. They cut his throat. And now we cut to the Palace Theater where King Clarkson is talking to the camera and addressing the nation. He says, good evening, citizens of Ilia. Forgive us for this late evening broadcast, but we have some important news to share. The selection began in earnest today, but it did not go as planned. Something shocking has occurred. We think he's going to speak of the rebel attack, but instead, Prince Maxon has broken with tradition. He's decided not to send home a candidate following the Winter Festival.
Congratulations, you've just blown up the Bachelorette.
The king and queen are now all smile, the propaganda machine in full swing. We begin a music montage. So this is the end of the episode where we have that classic CW montage over multiple events. So we got King Clarkson's voiceover as all these events are happening. So while Aspen is waiting for America, he's staring at this engagement ring as we hear King Clarkson in the background saying, Maxon's dilemma reminds us once again what a strong nation we have. We cut to a royal guard shoving a tear-streaked Fiona into a dank cell. King Clarkson voiceover, all 6 classes are populated by the best people in the world. Cut to Celeste watching the king and queen's report as her maid pulls pins from her hair, letting it all fall down her back. Aldine unzips Celeste's dress. Bro! Okay, so we're having this voiceover. While this is all happening, Celeste's maid is unzipping her dress. Then she's in her bra and underwear. She turns to face her maid. Your turn. Celeste unzips the maid uniform and they kiss. We realize that these two are lovers.
Oh my God! Okay, it's happening. Everybody stay calm.
What's the
Everybody
procedure,
stay
everyone?
calm.
What's the procedure?
Stay calm!
Wait.
Everybody calm down!
I'm shook. I did not expect that. Honestly, good. That really came out of nowhere, but I love it and I'm here for it. Yes, please. And now we cut to the king and queen's quarters. The queen is making him tea. She slides a small vial of liquid out of her pocket and pours a few drops into King Clarkson's tea, then hides the vial back in her pocket. We realize the queen is poisoning the king, which honestly, I am once again here for. It is not at all anything like her character from the books, but more drama we love. And we cut to Aspen, who's still waiting for America, and these guards come out and beat him, and a soldier with danger in his eyes says, welcome to the army, scum. We realize Maxon broke his promise to America. The soldiers seize him, begin to beat him. As America's engagement ring is trampled in the mud, we see Aspen fighting for his life. We close in on a fist as it flies into a punching bag. Find Maxon. Lucy enters. Maxon punches the bag again. Lucy approaches him, runs her hands over his chest. So what's my reward for telling you about the maid's uniform I found hidden in her closet? Was I right? Did she try to escape? But Maxon looks at her coldly. Get out. Lucy backs away, then hastily exits. Cut to Maxon. Is there shame in his eyes after all? He betrayed America and he knows it. What surprises him is that it bothers him. As Maxon beats the shit out of the bag, we exit to the woods of the rebel camp. As the music montage ends, Raph looks around for Gaia and Ashley. They're gone! Oh my god! We find Gaia on a horse, a blindfolded Ashley in front of her. Gaia stops her horse near a rough-hewn shelter, and Ashley says, where are we going? And Gaia says, to meet my boss. Then they're in a shelter. Gaia leads in Ashley, then pulls off her blindfold. Please, Ashley says, just tell me, what are you going to do now? Reveal Sylvian Santos. As he steps out of the other room, he says, now you're going to help us overthrow the king. We realize Palace insider Sylvian is actually a rebel. He is is Gaia's boss. End of show. Wow. My overall thoughts are I wanted to die the whole time. I'm really freaking glad that that was never made into anything that could continue. And I sincerely hope that Netflix does a better job than that on their adaptation. Y'all think that I am like a monster out here hating on Kira Cass? I sincerely think that if the characters and the plot had both been developed more in the books, they would have been fine. I used to really like them, and rereading them, those were my biggest problems. I really hope that with the adaptation, they do develop the characters and the plot lines more, because I actually think that it could be really good and it could be really entertaining if they did that. For example, not having America be a whiny little bitch. I would really appreciate that. If you want to read the full script, I will link it in the description box, because honestly, if I was just hearing these words being spoken, I would not believe they were real either. We love a sexy predator. Thank you for celebrating with me. I hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know if you want to see more videos on the selection, because I have so many ideas, and I think that the selection is just becoming a part of my brand right now, which honestly, on point, makes sense. And yeah, that was a thing that just happened. I am going to go wash my mouth out with soap. Goodbye.